Do I not consider my desire to be a woman as something innate to me? Well, I don't know if it's innate. The thing is, what people do, I think, sometimes, because you don't know where something came from, you assume it must be an innate feeling. Like most gay guys probably don't know why it is that they find guys attractive and not women. But you don't know that that means it's an innate thing. It's just that you don't know why you have that feeling. It's okay not to know why it is that you feel a certain way. It's okay to not know why it is that you're born male, but you just feel like you wish you were born female and you should have been born female. It doesn't actually fucking matter if it's a choice or not. You should be able to respect people's choices in general, as long as they're not like pushing them on you and making you out to be a bad person because you don't always call them a she and they don't resemble a fucking she or whatever. It's not a problem if trans is a choice.
Sorry, that's just anti-trans.
I don't know what this is. The discourse with Brandon Clark. I have no idea who Brandon Clark is. MAGA Catholic destroyed in heated gender debates. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently a MAGA Catholic got destroyed in a debate. I don't know. I like watching debates. It's always fun for me. Let's see what happened. Like and subscribe, etc.
The issue is gender incongruence, which is about your identity not lining up with your body, which
Okay, straight away we're just rattling off the talking points. What does that even mean? My identity isn't congruous with my body.
I guess I could see why that would lead people to say like, oh, not my body. But your identity is really just like complex systems can create complex processes. Some of these we understand, some of these we don't. And like identity seems
We don't understand the processes. How can we say for certain that any of this exists?
to necessarily rely on your brain, right? Like there is a rational commitment there to the brain existing for an identity to exist. Because without our brains, we wouldn't have an identity. At least that seems to be.
That's true. It is very hard to believe that things like dogs and stuff like that have identities in the way that we do. But it is just stuff that you conjure up. It is just stuff that you... can't remember what the word is. You conceptualize it yourself.
Our scientific understanding of how these things work. It's like a emerging process exists because without our brains, we wouldn't have an identity. At least that seems to be our scientific understanding of how these things work. It's like a emerging property. It's a property of a brain, an identity. It's not like a tangible thing. That's my understanding of like neuroscience of where we're at with it. And on those grounds,
I'll give him this. It's a better explanation than someone like First Amender, who seems to think that a study showing that some trans people of slightly different size, this or that in the brain, means that there's a neurological basis for gender identity.
kind of just never, and this was actually what led me to atheism, was actually one of the first things, is that I don't think that there's a way to prove a soul, so I don't necessarily believe that souls exist. I don't know but I guess I disagree with the implication of your claim. I don't know if I ever said that.
So I guess this guy said the gendered souls thing, and we didn't get to hear that at the start. The problem is, gender identity does just sound like you're saying a gendered soul. You know what I mean? There's some intangible part of you that is just different somehow. Well, a soul is an intangible part of you. Like, the soul thing is kind of, it's more, this is what it sounds like you're saying, than you literally believe it's because your soul is different. You know, it might not take that exact form, but it seems to a lot of people like the exact same thing.
At any point, but I just took issue with you invoking souls.
Yeah. And
because, like, couldn't you say, oh, I have this kind of soul, I have that kind of soul? Wouldn't that be, like, self-identifying as well?
for me, back when I was an atheist, what I called the soul was what you would probably call identity. It was whatever makes schwa schwa and me, like me, and not you. That is the soul. Whatever. I'm not saying it's, at the time, I wasn't saying it was anything spiritual or
Like personality.
anything like that. I didn't really have an explanation for it. I just knew there was something about me that separated me from being you or my wife or anybody else, and that it seems to withstand me being a 1-year-old to me being a 100-year-old, and whatever that thing is, that's the soul. But that's not the same as like my hand. You know, you can chop off my hand, and I'm still me. Like that's, you know what I mean? And so when you said, you know, the brain, you would say that that is the source of it. I would say that's the seed of it. But that is also your body. The brain is part of the body. And so this goes more with what I'm saying of it's just not even, it's sort of a nonsense statement unless you're going to go spiritual to say you're born in the wrong body, because you are your body. Like there is no separating the two.
I don't know if
There's always going to be the issue that there's not actually that many trans people that say I was born in the wrong body and mean it like literally. Whenever I said things like I feel like I was born in the wrong body, it's not because I actually think that it's possible to be born in the wrong body very literally. It's just that's how it feels, you know? You feel like you should have been born female. You feel just an attachment and a desire to be what you're not. That doesn't mean you actually think that you're born in the wrong body. You do get people that do push that kind of thing nowadays and seem to think it's a sincere thing, but there's never really been a solidified, this is what trans means, except for, like, the closest thing we have is my gender identity doesn't match my sex at birth, which I think is a really shit explanation and doesn't explain anything. All that does is make me think, well, okay, why is that? Why is that happening? And also you got to wonder, like, what is a gender identity that it maps onto sex, but not necessarily your sex, and should take precedent, ideally, in society over your sex, even though your sex is objective. And there are lots of reasons you might identify as the other sex, plenty of which fall under, like, delusion and genuine mental illness, you know what I mean?
if I would say that's true.
The brain is part of the body, right? Like it has to be.
Well, yeah, but I think that more of what we cling to in terms of when we think of self are properties of the brain. Like, and you watch Destiny, so I know you've heard him talk about like kind of the experiment where you cut off.
Yes, you cut off the head,
and then there's the robot head and the head on a body. I've always thought most people would think that you're more of yourself as the head on the robot body.
Correct.
Because I think it's more about the properties emerging from your brain, which I do agree. Like,
I think I agree. What I will say is, if you had to cut someone's head off and put it on something else, then the person will conceive that they are still their head on whatever else. You have already, like, inhabited that body for a long time. So you can't really divorce yourself completely from your body, I would say. I can't remember where else this came up. Oh, it was a Billboard Steve thing. Shit. It was a Billboard Steve thing. Where it's like, oh, well, if you separate your head from your body, like, which one's you? Like, are you still a man if you're just a head? You know, and it's like, well, the head has been attached to a male body. The head still has, like, the chromosomes and all this other kind of shit. So you can answer that, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember rightly, Steve refused to answer this fucking hypothetical, which, of course he did, but yeah, it's like, it's not that I don't agree with what he's saying, but I know.
yes, that's part of your body, but I do think it's more so like you're not as attached to your body as you are these properties of your brain, if that makes sense.
Right. But essentially what I'm saying is those things can't be separated. They are kind of synonymous to a degree, because
like, I think
even if it's an emergent property of your body at that point, you know what I mean? Like you can't, there's no version of having you.
I do think you can, like, separate, in some ways, your consciousness from your, like, physical body. It's just that your consciousness comes from your physical body. And you have the kind of consciousness that you do because you evolved from tens of thousands of years of humans, you know. You evolved with the most advanced brain that exists in nature on Earth, you know.
That doesn't involve some level of body as well.
sure, but I think
your
that,
brain
like,
would be body. So
like your sense of self obviously relies on that's what identity is.
it's
right?
contingent
So,
on your body. Yeah.
So my thing is like if that ceased, like
Yeah, if your sense of self is identity, that's fair enough. But there is a lot of ways in which a person's sense of self might be out of whack.
let's say whatever it is in your brain that allows you to have this, that like is cut off. You're not going to be there like, this is me, you know, you're going to be essentially nothing, right? In terms of like how you like, you know, you can't even fathom it necessarily. But
You mean if your head was cut off and
like
not
a brain
like
dead
plugged
person.
into anything?
Like a
yeah.
brain dead
Yes,
person.
yeah.
I don't think you can say it's not bound to the body at all. And if you kill someone, their consciousness goes with it, you know? It has to come from the body. Because it's like all processes of the brain.
A machine or whatever, right? Yeah. So I would think then
your sense of self would be gone. Yeah, you would lose consciousness completely.
Yeah. So and again, it's a bit of a thing because I would say like the rational commitment is to.
Well, again, male head, female body. Presumably, the male head has already been attached to a male body. You know.
Then the emergent property, because the emergent property comes from the brain, but you can have the brain without the property, so you're not necessarily attached to the brain. But then I guess then I could see how that kind of regresses back, obviously, to the body. So
yeah,
I do disagree with the implication, but I also think.
Well, yeah, I was about to expound. Obviously, my implication is so you're not born in the wrong body. You have a disconnect between what you feel your body should look or be like and what it actually is. And
but that's
that disconnect,
problem, right?
Yes, of course that's an actual problem, but I would call it.
I think surely the problem there is feeling like your body should be a certain thing. In what way should a person be male or female, for example? If I were to say, I should have been born female because I'm trans, it's like, well, on what grounds? Because I feel that way? That's just how I feel. Will I always feel that way? I don't know. I don't really feel that way now, to be honest. I used to.
Call it a problem, whereas they would say, like, that's who I am. And that's where the disagreement comes in between the two sides.
To be clear, that's
we say it's a problem and problems need to be fixed, and they say it doesn't need to be fixed.
Well, it's definitionally a disability at that point, at least if it's causing you, a disability is like a mental condition that causes.
So you would call being trans a disability?
If I agree with this, like, you could say that, I think the way that mental illness works is that there are probably plenty of traits about people that in more moderate kind of doses are okay. But when it gets to the point where it's affecting your life, then it becomes a mental illness. And the word disability is a bit strong here.
Well, not all trans people have gender dysphoria.
I feel he fucked up. Using the word disability was a mistake here. Mental illness, fine. You can say, well, yeah, I guess gender dysphoria is a mental illness. Being trans isn't a mental illness because being trans just isn't categorized that way.
It's causing you.
It does need to be fixed.
Well, it's definitionally a disability at that point, at least if it's.
He fucked up here. I think he fucked up here.
Causing you, a disability is like a mental condition that causes.
So you would call being trans a disability?
Well, not all trans people have gender.
Because now he's saying that he thinks gender dysphoria is a disability. I'd be very surprised if in almost any case it's like a disability. It would have to be like extraordinarily bad to be a disability, I would say. Because a lot of people still have to get on with their lives. You know, a lot of people still manage. They have this going on, it makes life more difficult for them, but they still manage.
Gender dysphoria.
Would call being trans a disability?
Well, not all trans people have gender dysphoria.
Well, then what do they? Then what do they have? Just preference at that point?
Yeah.
And he's not asking the right question. Like, okay, so is gender dysphoria a disability? No. I still experience gender dysphoria. I'm always going to wish that I was born female. I was always going to prefer if I'm more feminine. That's just how it is. I've just kind of accepted my sex. And that's helped with my gender dysphoria. It's helped to get to a place where I can understand that I'm a male person. If someone calls me a he, it's not the end of the fucking world. So I think I've developed a better way of dealing with gender dysphoria than what I used to do, which was insist that I'm a woman and stuff like that, when it's just not true, unfortunately. I wish it was. If someone pulls my pants down in public, they might still think I'm a woman because I'm post-op. And I guess, you know, that gives you a bit of confidence when you're trans. But like, ultimately, I think I'm always going to be dysphoric. If I could afford to get myself to look and sound exactly like a woman, yeah, I'd probably have like less dysphoria. It's just that that's not realistic to happen.
Yeah, well, and that's from the APA, by the person, the APA who creates the DSM-5, who diagnosed.
Like, we're, oh, Jesus Christ. Citing the APA now, the DSM criteria for gender dysphoria, especially for kids, is not good. Like, for kids, it tells you, oh, technically your kid can be diagnosed with gender dysphoria for like playing with like girls' toys and stuff. So I don't like the DSM particularly. What's the difference between my current body and what I'd like it to be? I don't know. I wish I resembled a woman more. It's hard to... I don't like to think of it in terms of, oh, well, I changed this and I changed that and I changed the other, because I don't think that's worth thinking about. Because I can't do it anyway. When you get FFS on the NHS, not that I'm aware of, no. If you can, it's in very, like... It's very occasionally. Most people would not get it on the NHS. Generally, you have to pay for it out of pocket. A lot of people end up going abroad.
Diagnosis gender dysphoria. They've doubled who creates the DSM-5, who diagnoses gender dysphoria.
Yeah, this does not mean that these people are correct or necessarily should be treated as an authority on gender dysphoria. They're just the ones that coined the terms.
They've doubled.
Yeah, but if you don't have, what are you saying that is the case? What's going on there?
Gender dysphoria specifically hinges on this gender incongruence. So it's
no, that I understand. I mean,
right?
the people.
This isn't even true. It's not even true. You're not saying anything when you say this. You're not saying anything when you say you have gender dysphoria because your identity doesn't match up with your sex. That is two ways of saying the same thing. You're describing an incongruence either way. You're describing an unhappiness with your sex. The identity thing, I guess, is meant to explain why, but there's no proof that gender identity exists in all people the way that we're saying it does, and that for most people it matches and for some it doesn't. I don't think most so-called cis people really think of it that way. All this kind of suggests to me is like, okay, well, why are people incongruous then? Can that incongruity be due to like being literally delusional? Well, yeah, it probably can. There's a lot of ways in which it can be. There's a lot of reasons why it might be something you wouldn't affirm, and you want to treat whatever's making them delusional instead of just transitioning them. But people don't want to think of it that way. This whole thing, it's hard to explain in a lot of ways. It just doesn't really work. You're not actually saying anything. Saying my gender identity doesn't match my sex at birth just invites a whole lot of further questions. It doesn't really explain shit.
The trans people that don't have it,
right?
Are you saying it's a choice like dyeing your hair at that point? Like, I just want to be trans, or like what's going on there then?
No,
well, it's a choice either way. You make the choice based on your feelings. Arguably, you make the choice to dye your hair because you feel like you'd want to have like different colored hair. It's still a choice. It's the way you feel. And the way you feel doesn't have to come from some like, what's the word? It doesn't have to come from some innate thing. And we don't need to like put this much effort into pretending that we can prove that it's innate.
Still have their identity. They still have this, I don't know, I guess the words to put it into. They still have the identity disconnect, for lack of a better word there, but there's not the issues arising from it. Like it's not causing them a sense of discomfort.
So this doesn't make any sense then. So gender dysphoria sometimes comes from your identity not matching your sex, but sometimes doesn't. This doesn't make any sense. It's just a shit way of explaining why gender dysphoria exists. Because it's all unfalsifiable. It points you towards, okay, maybe there's something in the brain. But the brain studies that we've seen are just not very good. There's no proof for any of this existing. And we made up this whole gender identity framework to include everyone in order to try and legitimize being trans, when there's no need to legitimize it. It's just a thing that some people are always going to be doing. And it's a thing that some people are going to think is ridiculous, no matter what, you know, it just doesn't matter.
It's not hindering their life. They're not thinking about it. And I would say, like, you see this actually commonly even in...
They're not thinking, they're transitioning, bro. They have to be thinking about it in some way or another. Their reason isn't just not unhappiness with their sex, it's something else.
Life, they're not thinking about it. And I would say, like, you see this actually commonly even in cis people, right? Like, men will look at themselves and they're like, oh, well, I'm a man. Men are supposed to be strong. I have to go to the gym. Women will be like, women have long hair.
Yeah, gender conformity. That doesn't mean that their gender identity is male. This is just a way of framing all of that legitimizes trans people.
And wear makeup and wear dresses, so I have to do this and this. So like this sort of...
he's talking about conformity. He's not talking about doing what your gender identity tells you should do. He's not talking about affirming your gender identity. He's talking about conformity. That girl that wants to wear dresses, her mum probably wore dresses. Her mum's friends probably wore dresses whenever she saw her friends. A bunch of her friends probably wore dresses as she was growing up. She'll be conforming to what other girls and what other women before her have been doing. It's not that deep.
Sort of like gender incongruence from your identity is something all people.
Like, is following a fashion trend actually in service of your gender identity? Or are you just doing what other people do so you can fit in? And you get some kind of enjoyment from fitting in with other people.
Experience, I would say, on various levels.
I guess I'm just trying.
I'm going to be honest, this is all nonsense. I'm sorry, man. This guy seems more intelligent than someone like First Amender. But there really is nothing much to this. Like, most of the time when you're explaining this to so-called cis people, they just don't think like this. I'm sorry.
Trying to pinpoint. So when you say trans, then, but not having gender dysphoria, then what is the problem? That's like, I guess, why are they trans? What's trans about them at that point? I guess I'm confused there.
Is that trans is just your gender doesn't align with your sex.
Still not what trans means.
Gender dysphoria is when that causes you discomfort or like.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking. So if your gender does, when you say your gender.
Can we please, all of these people, stop filling their heads with shit? Because then they come out and repeat it. And then people like me listen to it and it's like, what are you fucking talking about? Do you know what being trans is? Being trans is living your life as the other sex as much as you can. That's what it's really about. You're not trans if you're this guy and you go around saying, oh, I'm a woman, I want to be called Sally and I want she, her pronouns, but changing absolutely nothing about how you're perceived. Like, I guess maybe the name thing is kind of a part of being trans. But if you still go around with a beard and stuff, you're not really trying to be perceived as the other sex. That's what it is to me. It's about the way you live your life. It doesn't really matter the reason. It doesn't matter if you've got gender dysphoria or not. I 100% think you can be trans and not have gender dysphoria. Because it's about how you're living your life, ultimately. It's got nothing to do, like all this gender identity stuff, that's the way some people feel. That's the way some people frame it. But it's just a way of putting words to something that's extremely hard to describe. And all these people come out asking like this, all these people come out acting like this is some kind of scientific, like, universal truth. And it's just not.
If it's not dysphoria, like, oh, my gender is, are you saying then it's like, I want to have blonde hair. I just want this gender. I just want it. Preference.
That is usually how it is. You don't necessarily know why you feel this way. And it doesn't actually matter. Like, the gender dysphoria thing doesn't even matter. You just have that desire. You probably don't know why. It's extremely hard to describe. That's why we use things like gender identity, but they're actually meaningless. What they mean is like that feeling, which can't really be pinned down to a specific function in the brain or something.
No. I don't know where.
Then where's the gender? Where's the gender? I'm confused on what gender is in this.
Gender is identity, right? Gender.
Yes, but.
Oh man. I wonder if this guy, how often does he do call-ins? How often does this guy do call-ins? I think I need to keep an eye on him and see if I can drop by sometime.
But then you're saying there is there's a disconnect between your sex and your identity.
Yes.
And they should align, but they don't. So that's a problem.
No. Trans people without gender.
Like, to me, that sounds like delusion. You think you're the other sex than what you actually are. That sounds like exactly what, presumably, we should want to get away from. Like, you know, you hear all these, like, old men that think they're women and stuff, and you push back on that. It's like, well, isn't gender identity not matching your sex? Isn't that basically what you're saying? How you identify yourself is different from what you actually are. Okay, so you're delusional about who you are then. So I hate this definition so much. And these people will swear blind that actually it's not about that, and it's like these specific functions, but we've never proven those specific functions.
Gender dysphoria are saying there's a disconnect, but it's not necessarily a problem. People with gender dysphoria,
but they want to fix. They're doing something about it. It's intrinsically a problem. They're fixing it. They're trying to fix it.
No. Oh, now I see. Not all trans people seek treatments. The trans people who seek treatments are the ones that have gender dysphoria.
Sure, but even if they say my pronoun.
People who don't have dysphoria still end up accessing HRT, I'm pretty sure.
That's still a step to fix it. They want to be identified that way.
No,
And I'm saying
that's about just affirming your identity.
yes, and I'm saying they're
Like,
the issue.
do you like being called he, him?
Do I like being called it? I don't.
I mean, do you
not like
prefer
being
it, I
called
guess?
he, him.
Yeah, I bet most guys don't care that they're being called he, him. It's just if you call a guy a she, he's going to start taking like inference. Oh, are you calling me a she because I've got this like winged eyeliner going on? Which is very nice, by the way. Like, if you're a guy and someone calls you a she, you think they're taking the piss out of you. And presumably women feel the same way. Oh, do I look manly? But that's not about affirming gender identity. That's just a way of framing it, ultimately.
I would, and I guess, I mean, you might not bite the bullet. We're in a disagreement or whatever. Most people would like to be called their pronouns, whether or not it's something they actively think about. Like if you are somebody who identifies.
No, they just don't want to be called the other ones because it sounds like someone's getting the wrong end of the stick or is like actively like trying to make some kind of statement about you, you know?
As a man, maybe you don't even think about it.
Right, but I'm asking
Somebody
where
comes up
those
to you and you're
pronouns
like, "Hey,
came.
little girl."
I'm a step behind it. Where did those pronouns come from? And it seems like you're saying it's just
like
I want to have blonde hair today.
Why did we create
No,
pronouns?
like what? Okay, so like my he him came from
Like, why do people prefer the pronouns that are used for them?
I have a penis. I was just born this way, and so everybody calls me he him because that's what we've always done. Is call people with penises he him. Yeah, I didn't choose it. I never was like I'm going to be a he him today.
Right, we call people we think have penises he, him. I guess. The way we pronoun people isn't strictly sex-based. It's what we think someone's sex is, you know?
Just started calling me that, and I've never rejected it.
Him, but okay.
I mean, it's the same reason I'm called Joshua.
Wait, is he telling him why he likes his pronouns? I don't think you should be telling other people why it is that they prefer to be called this, that, or the other. That doesn't make sense to do.
I should say my birth name. I didn't select it. It's just what I was given, and so it's just like he him is what society has called.
Yeah, it's not what he prefers. It's just what he expects, because that's how language is generally used. By your definition, a trans man who medically and on paper transitioned all the way but is a femboy and mostly people mistake for female isn't trans. They aren't trying to be perceived as male externally. Well, yeah, I think trans should mean like transsexual. And then non-binary should cover the stuff that, you know... Like, if you're a woman and you want to be perceived as a woman, then you're not fucking trans. I'm sorry. The whole point is you're trying to live as the thing that you are not. Otherwise, you're like queer or non-binary or something. Like, what is the point in medically transitioning all the way and then being a femboy and, like, they're not being mistaken for female. You don't know what the word female means, I guess. They're not being mistaken for female. Like, no, they're not really trans because they're not living as the other sex. They're just... They're using medication as like an aesthetic at that point. They're using it as like an accessory. Like, those are the kind of people they should be saying no to be quite honest. Because you shouldn't be, like, fucking around with your body like that as an accessory.
Told me, and I never said, no, don't call me that. So I'm saying
like, ultimately, the alternative is that anyone that calls himself trans is trans. And that means that there is no definition for trans.
He has called me, and I never said, no, don't call me that. So I'm saying don't call me that.
The way it aligns with the way you view yourself.
Can I please stop explaining to other people why it is that they feel this kind of way about this or that language. Stop telling other people how they perceive things. I beg you.
But
if somebody was like, hey girl, hey little girl.
Yeah, that would sound like they're taking the piss. It's got nothing to do with his gender identity. It sounds like someone's trying to, like, disrespect him.
Hey, go get her. Tell Swat.
They're, like, calling him weak or something. They're calling him weak or immature or feminine or something. Like, any one man might not like that very much, obviously.
To come over here, go get her.
Yeah, but
you would a problem would start to arise from that because it doesn't align with the way you see yourself. It hasn't been a problem for you because you're having your identity validated. It's a problem.
But my identity is validated because I was given, you don't know how to speak when you come out. You don't know anything about anything when you're born. I absorbed that he, him is attributed to me. It didn't come from within me. It came from society onto me. You see what I'm saying?
Well, so did your gender.
I guess that's what I'm okay. So, but that's not the case for these people because they reject the one that we try to put onto them.
Well,
And I'm saying, is that just a
gender is nature? Any bit of like behavior or things like this is going to be nature and nurture. So there's going to be a bit of both that go into it. But I guess I'm confused on what the hang up is.
my hang up is
He doesn't believe in gender identity. He doesn't see the way he processes things like language the way that you think he does.
like if I
I just think it's a losing battle to be trying to explain to other people how they perceive stuff like this. I don't know why these like ally types have to do this, where they get so-called cisgender people on to try and convince them they have the exact same thought patterns as like trans people do around like gender identity and stuff like that. It just doesn't work, unfortunately. It just doesn't work. You're never going to win arguments like this. Because all they have to do is be like, I just don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. I don't process things that way. I don't have that belief system. Because what we think about how gender identity and shit work, it is a belief system ultimately. It's an unfalsifiable. It's not something that's really been proven. It's just things that people claim about themselves.
my hang up is like if I tomorrow was like I want to be she her, I would say that is a choice I made the same way I said I'm going to go by Schwa. It's as much
Yeah, you make choices based on your preference.
of a personal preference as I like Star Wars or I like whatever.
For you, it probably would be a choice
I kind of agree with this guy, to be honest.
because it's not how you actually.
And so I'm saying if
But
it's
no, it's still a choice. Fuck me.
Wars or I like whatever.
For you, it probably would be a choice because it's not how you actually.
And so I'm saying if it's not
You say it's because it's not how you actually feel. No, it's still a choice. Something doesn't become not a choice because you don't feel a certain way. Because you do feel a certain way. Fuck me, how am I putting this? Something doesn't become not a choice because you feel a certain way. You choose things based on your feelings. I still chose to transition. I could have chosen not to.
a choice, where did that come from then?
From their
And
identity. That's the way they see themselves.
Yeah, so they see themselves a certain way, so they make choices to change their body.
But I'm saying, where did that come from? Why do they see themselves that way? And if it came from them, then it's going.
Listen, here's the ultimate point. It doesn't actually fucking matter if it's a choice or not. You should be able to respect people's choices in general, as long as they're not like pushing them on you and making you out to be a bad person because you don't always call them a she and they don't resemble a fucking she or whatever. It's not a problem if trans is a choice. Like, if you choose to listen to certain music or choose to watch certain fucking movies or whatever, then that's fine. That's up to you. Depressed people do choose to take antidepressants. Not all of them do. I'm glad we're on the same page. Was that supposed to be an own? That's like saying a depressed person chooses to take antidepressants? Well, yeah, obviously. They go to their doctor. Their doctor suggests a treatment, and you say yes or no. How many depressed people choose not to take antidepressants because they don't like the effects?
Back to like, you don't have to call it dysphoria. Maybe there's another title, but now it's there's something going on there.
So what?
Yeah, he's trying to prove that there's some kind of innate thing that means that you're trans, and there just is not. There's never been a proven thing.
And just gender dysphoria, again, you could be everyone in your life. You could be a trans woman, right? Everyone in your life could be calling you the right pronouns. You could have all of the,
Sure, and you can still feel,
and
I
you
get
can
it.
still have the discomfort from your gender not aligning with your sex. That is where the problem arises. For other trans,
Well, if it's still there, then why is it so bad if you choose not to call trans people by their pronouns? Are you helping them that much by calling them by the pronouns they want? Maybe you're not. Maybe they need to find another way around. I don't know.
people, it typically arises from the social invalidation. So from people to other trans people, it typically from your gender not aligning with your sex. That is where the problem arises. For other trans people,
Fuck me, dude. I hate non-trans people need to stop arguing this kind of shit. I'm so sorry. You've no idea. You don't know what you're talking about.
You could have all of the, all of
Sure,
the,
and you can still feel.
and
I
you
get
can
it.
still have the discomfort from your gender not aligning with your sex. That is where the problem arises. For other trans people, it typically arises from the social invalidation. So from people.
Yeah, i.e. trans women that don't do anything to look like women and then complain when they don't get called a she. Because they want society to bend over backwards for them.
Telling them, no, you're not who you think you are, or you're not this.
Well, maybe they aren't who they think they are.
You can't be this. You can't fit in with this group that you see yourself as, just like all of them see themselves as. It's kind of essentially like more
Yes,
of like,
and
If someone is getting this bad mental health problems from not being seen as a woman when they're male, that does sound like they have other issues that need dealing with. I'm sorry. That just sounds nuts.
I'm getting to the why.
Like, if you're that unable or unwilling to pass, then yeah, that's just going to be your life. I'm sorry. That's the kind of thing at that point where that person just needs to be told to get fucking real, to be quite honest. Just get real. Get real with everyone. Get real with yourself more than anything. Trans stuff, it matters because kids. Well, kids shouldn't transition. Kids aren't capable of making that kind of choice with the kind of foresight required to make the choice to transition. It's true, whether being gay is a choice or not doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck if a man wants to fuck another man. I don't care if he has some innate thing about him that makes him want to fuck other men. Or if he made some kind of choice based on the way he feels. It makes no fucking odds to me. Like, I just don't give a fuck. That's fine. Do what you want. It's the same with being trans. You chose to transition. In itself, that's fine. It's when it starts getting pushed on other people. And it's when people start pushing ridiculous fucking legislation shit around like sports and around like children and stuff like that. That's when it starts becoming a problem. It doesn't matter that I think it's a choice, because I don't see that as a choice that should be denigrated necessarily.
Why do they see themselves as X?
right.
What's the why
Because
there?
Because that's their identity.
Why does someone see themselves as something? Because that's their identity. Like, what is that answer? What are you saying here? So why do they have that identity then? The way you see yourself, the label you put on yourself is your identity. So it is what it is because it is what it is. Like, this is not good. I'm sorry.
But why?
Do I not consider my desire to be a woman as something innate to me? Well, I don't know if it's innate. The thing is, what people do, I think, sometimes, because you don't know where something came from, you assume it must be an innate feeling. Like, most gay guys probably don't know why it is that they find guys attractive and not women. But you don't know that that means it's an innate thing. It's just that you don't know why you have that feeling. I think people confuse the two. If you don't know why you feel this way and you just always remember feeling this way, you're probably going to think it's innate, but that doesn't mean that it is. Truthfully, I don't know. I've not seen any evidence that there is an innate thing to being trans.
I don't.
That's the question I'm asking. Why? Because, like I said, for me, it's because society. Like my whole life, I'm a guy. That's just what I was told. So I accepted it the same way I accepted that.
It's just,
this is America. This country is called America. I inherited it.
Right. It's just there's the privilege there that.
But they're saying we refuse to inherit it, and I'm asking.
Well, it's just that what you came out, how society viewed you, what you.
I think you're thinking of it the wrong way. It's okay not to know things. It's okay not to know why it is that you feel a certain way. It's okay to not know why it is that you're born male, but you just feel like you wish you were born female and you should have been born female. Knowing that it's like irrational, but feeling that way anyway and not knowing why. It's okay. That's fine. That's how I feel, honestly. I'm okay with not knowing. It just kind of is what it is. And, you know, I get treated the way I do because of it. That's fine. I don't give a fuck, quite honestly. It's okay if you don't have all the answers. Like, no one has all the answers. No one will ever get all the answers, truthfully.
You're given all of this lined up with the way you came to view yourself. This is also like gender. It's not something that once you have it, it's never changing. Gender is a fluid thing. Gender is an expression.
Yep, so why... I don't know if this guy is for transitioning kids. If he is for transitioning kids, why the fuck would you pin down their gender identity on something when it might change and is, if anything, more likely to change as a child?
of identity. Identity comes from your
You
brain.
said how you came to view yourself.
Identity comes from your brain. I mean, I guess that's true in the most technical of senses. But it's like just the way we label stuff. You can end up labeling things erroneously because you feel a certain way, because you don't always... What you feel and what you think isn't always rational. This isn't like helping to legitimize like trans though. Maybe trans isn't very legitimate, but it's just a thing that people do anyway. Isn't that fine? Can't people just do their own thing regardless?
So that's, I guess, where the crux of the question is. What changed that you came to view yourself differently than the way that society has placed on you? Like I said, it's at that point, it is a rejection.
I gotta say as well, unless he's gonna pull something out in the next 4 minutes, he didn't destroy this guy. Like, this guy doesn't seem like the most intelligent person I've ever heard, but, you know, he's kind of at least somewhat able to question the kind of doctrine that this guy's spouting. I'm not super impressed. I think this guy, listen, I will keep an eye out. I wonder if he goes live and does call-ins. What are these titles? Like, this comes off very insecure. This comes off incredibly insecure. If you're having to put in the title how much you destroyed people, and when you watch it, it's like, I know, bro. I know, bro. Like, it doesn't look good, does it? Ban trans athletes. Okay, I might have to have a quick look at this. We'll just see if anything else happens in this very quickly.
There's expression, and then there's identity, right? I would say the identity always existed, but then you came to the understanding.
How do you know? How do you know? Your identity can't exist when you're like tiny, because you don't have that function yet. And then by the time your identity develops and you start to get a handle on what you are and who you are and stuff, you're already being presented with all kinds of like gendered stimuli. You're already getting all kinds of things thrust on you. And to an extent, your genetics are going to play a factor as well. Like, boys and girls just kind of play differently. How much of that is because of how they're socialized differently and what they're encouraged to do and what their parents give them and stuff? And how much of it is just like genetic? Like, because of certain physical differences between males and females. Males and females prefer different kinds of play. You know what I mean?
That you want to express yourself like this. And that,
but it can't have always existed, because now we're getting back into the soul stuff. It didn't always exist. You didn't even have a brain.
Not, I guess, always.
So is it biological, or is it?
Yeah, from the point your brain has the systems necessary for identity, right? Just like.
But then now.
Yeah, so you don't have a gender identity since the moment you're born. So then doesn't it kind of develop partly due to you internalizing like outside factors? Doesn't it kind of partly develop alongside your preferences, which are developing and are influenced by them? Gender identity is affected by outside forces. Like, it kind of has to be. There's no other way around it. It has to be influenced by things like society and the way we internalize things, which we do.
Are we saying my brain, when I'm in the womb at 22 weeks and I have a brain, is like he, him, he, him, he, him? No, I mean, that's a made up arbitrary category. So there is no gender to latch onto until you're like 5 and you know what gender is. And there is stuff like that. It doesn't exist before.
Somewhat,
then.
Yeah. Well, somewhat, but most people.
Yeah, it's a societal thing that you have to learn. It's just not really like proven at all to be an innate, like, psychological, neurophysical fucking thing, whatever we're calling it.
Come to an understanding of gender around 3. That's actually a pretty studied and understood topic.
Yeah, you understand which sex you are.
Sure, I threw out 5 out of my ass, but yeah. But my point was just, so it can't be something core to the person. It can't be. It has to be developed over the years. I mean, it can't be.
It is something core to the person, is it though? How so? I like how we don't actually have to ever show anything to give evidence that it's core to a person. I think to most people, your gender identity is not a core part of you. I think it's much more likely to be a core part of you if you're trans and thus actually spend time thinking about this kind of stuff. I don't think most people even fucking stand to benefit from learning about things like gender identity.
There is. Huh? Was it developed or is it core?
Do you think consciousness is core to the person? Consciousness.
What do you mean by consciousness? Yeah, I think it's core. I mean, it's written into the coding DNA. Also you will have
the same way identity does. So what's the?
How on earth would he like consciousness? No, surely that's not true. Surely your identity is a result of your consciousness. Surely, I don't buy this. He's saying an awful lot of stuff as if it's fact, without having to provide any evidence for it.
The disconnect. What's the difference there? They develop the exact same way.
How so? By what measure? What is he talking about? In what way do gender identity and consciousness develop the same way? How on earth are you gonna like justify that one? I bet this guy doesn't fucking push back either. I bet this guy doesn't ask him to actually fucking explain that one.
I would say consciousness is in your DNA. Humans are conscious creatures inherently.
No, that's just
Well, we've evolved like the higher brain function to have consciousness, sure.
it's not true.
What? What do you mean? We're not conscious?
Well, I guess we're conscious, but we're conscious because our brains give us the ability to be conscious.
Yes, but inherently.
Yeah, but then how does gender identity develop the same way as that? It didn't develop like evolutionarily. We weren't even talking about gender identity until about 50 to 100 years ago, like ever.
Like
We
that's part of being a
we
human.
don't have consciousness before our brains have the.
No, it's like DNA, for instance. If you look at DNA,
No. Wait, what you're saying is insane. I
what?
just want to say that. No.
Is it any more insane than what you're fucking saying?
and I'll say,
let me.
Listen, he's done a good job of waiting until almost 15 minutes to start being patronizing, but this is still patronizing. And you haven't actually shown anything you're talking about.
Say it this way: the DNA is there to start the processes of building your brain in a specific way.
Yeah, and same with identity.
Naturally
Same with
produces.
identity. It's the exact same for identity. I don't get where they're.
But different is there to start the processes of building your brain.
Like, it's almost like, oh, you just know who you are, and this thing in your brain develops to control that you know who you are or something. Like, it just doesn't. I don't buy this for a second. I think anything this guy's saying is true. I don't think this guy knows how consciousness develops. But now how we can say that that's how gender identity develops too. If you have to have a certain level of consciousness in order to have a gender identity, then it doesn't develop that way. Consciousness develops first. And then things like gender identity develop. You have to have a certain amount of cognition to be able to work out how you feel and put a word to it. That's what identity is. Identity is the label you put on something. But it's based on how you feel. It's based on the shit that's already there. This is just nonsense. I'm sorry.
In a specific way.
Yeah, and same with identity.
Naturally produces.
It's the exact same for identity.
He does not know this.
I don't get where they're
But different
complex processes that come from complex systems that derive in our brain. But
Oh, it's super complex. So now I can just say it is like it is and then not have to explain. Because, well, it's very complicated. So we don't actually know why it exists. It just does.
both of them. So
like the having an identity, yes, your specific identity, impossible for that to be.
Wait, no. Well, it's the same for consciousness because your stream of consciousness is the exact same way then as your identity versus like.
What does that even mean?
The ability to have it and the ability to have consciousness. Again, they're the exact
same thing. Then okay. Well, then I would say
if you have like everyone has the ability to put labels on how they feel. Everyone has the ability to label themselves as this, that, or the other. Like that's because we've evolved with a certain this is nonsense. I'm sorry.
Say one does, but the other
sure.
doesn't.
Then I would say
what I will
it's
say
intrinsic.
Is consciousness,
it's
like
biological.
it's an abstractly understood thing. So I guess there's wiggle room for you to say this is my theory on it. But from what we understand about consciousness is that it is entirely derived from systems within the brain.
I'm fine with that.
Which is the exact same way as and it develops over time, which is the exact same. It's the exact same truth for identity.
Sure, but then so then now we're solidifying then that
that's retarded.
So if it's true for one, then it's necessarily true for the other.
Not at all, no. Identity, if anything, seems like a thing within consciousness and like cognition. If anything, identity to me seems related to like pattern finding and recognition, you know what I mean?
What I'm saying is now, so then it is intrinsic to them. So it can't be, it's not fluid in the sense it is, I would say it's not fluid like the way that like tomorrow I could just say, you know what,
No.
These Avatar movies aren't hitting it for me.
It's almost like he's trying to have his cake and eat it too, in a way. I think, yes, if gender identity exists, it is fluid. It will change over your life because your feelings will change over your life. Really, the root of it is how you feel. And you put a word to that, and that's your identity. But really, it's just how you feel. It's your preferences at the end of the day.
It's not fluid in that sense where it's
No, it
like
is fluid. And
not like that though.
development
You would agree.
And it's not even always fluid. That's the worst thing.
necessitates change. What do you mean?
Like, can you say that gender identity is necessarily fluid if most people are just like so-called cisgender their whole lives? The problem is, this is fine. I think this kind of stuff is okay when we just talk about trans people this way, and we just talk about people that actually think that there's something up with their gender identity. But they always have to like apply it to everyone else, and then it stops working because the average person just doesn't function this way and just doesn't seem to have these kind of thought processes.
Like Avatar, the movies. Tomorrow I could say, actually, I don't really like these movies. They suck.
Oh,
That's
I thought
like-
you were gonna tell me like a plot line.
No. That's like, they're not fluid like that. It's not like you have that much control over it to just be like, you know what? And so for me, at the very least, that gets rid of the,
Yeah, you don't really have control over your preferences. I think it functions like that.
the arbitrary. I'm going back and forth between.
To tie the two, there's gender identity and gender expression. So like I would say again, the identity always exists. The understanding of that identity and the want or even unwant, because you can reject expression, but that existing
This is nonsense. This is such nonsense. How can an identity be like innate in this way? And that your understanding of it varies. This doesn't make any sense.
is something people more so come to along the development.
Okay, wow. So where did he destroy this guy? Where was it even heated? It wasn't even heated. I guess maybe I have a different idea of heated, where it's like people screaming at each other. That's pretty cooked. I wonder where he does his like lives. I wonder how he gets hold of people, because I would be interested in talking to this guy. Have one more look. Here's a link tree, right? He's just saying so much stuff that is just completely unfalsifiable. Just completely made up. It's gonna be TikTok, isn't it? I bet he goes live on TikTok. I don't use TikTok. He's got a much bigger channel. But he doesn't go live on this one either. The word destroyed. The word destroyed is in every fucking title. MAGA destroyed. Liberal destroys. MAGA destroyed. MAGA destroyed. Republican destroyed. MAGA destroyed. Trump destroyed. MAGA Republican destroyed. Mike Johnson destroyed. MAGA destroyed. MAGA Republican destroyed. JD Vance destroyed. MAGA Republican destroyed. MAGA Republican destroyed. This one was humiliated. That means the same thing, basically. RFK Jr. destroyed. Republican destroyed. Republican shredded. Republican destroyed. Destroys MAGA. Republican destroyed. Humiliated. Destroyed. Destroyed. Humiliates. Destroyed. Humiliated. Destroys. Destroyed. I'll tell you one thing. 25.3k subscribers? Why are your views looking like mine? Why are you getting like similar views to me? Is this getting repetitive? Is this getting boring? Is that what it is? I mean, I know people got so desperate for like anti-Trump content last year that they got Xanderhal to fucking 100k, but like, Jesus Christ, man. I don't know, I'll look into it on my own time. I have a quick look at this. MAGA destroyed in heated transports debate. I honestly have no idea how the fuck the left are fucking doing this fucking sports thing. I don't know how they're defending it. Unless they're just trying to divert, which I guess is not the worst idea.
I think that it's hard to say that it's as black and white. It kind of depends. Like if we're talking like high school sports, I don't think it's as serious. If we're talking some sports, even on the professional level, I don't think it's that serious. Like I'm sorry, the Velociraptor guy kind of stated. With strength sports, obviously, I think there is a difference. But if
Okay, so some sports, males and females should be separate, but males just have advantages in most sports. And like culturally, a lot of sports have been very kind of aimed at men, and it's been men that have participated in them. Like women might want their own sports away from men, and now men are following them into them.
fairness is the critique, I think that there's a lot more than just gender we could look at. Like, why are we letting people like Victor Wembanyama play in the NBA? That doesn't seem that fair for people like Chris Paul, who are
I don't know who.
6'1". So I think also when like you
You don't control for things like height differences. You just don't play basketball if you're like fucking 5'5". There's no like call for, like, you're not gonna have different leagues for different heights and stuff. The other thing I really wonder, we always hear these people, oh, why don't we divide sports by this? Why don't we divide sports by that? And a lot of the time, what it sounds like is they want, instead of like one main competition where the best of the best come together, there's like about 10 different ones with all different kinds of people. Can you imagine some of these people, if they got their way, the Olympics would take like fucking a month. Because you'd have to go through all the different categories. Now we've got the 100-meter sprint for the guys with X muscle mass. Now we've got the 100-meter sprint for women that don't think they're men. I don't know, you know, shit like that.
you're using fairness as the critique, it opens a slippery slope to like.
It really doesn't. Like, you have the way that you divide it, and then you make it as fair as you can. But if it's divided by sex, then yes, the best women are going to be the best. You shouldn't be trying to make it so that the shit ones still get a look in. Certainly not on the kind of elite level. And if it's like just community sports, then none of that matters anyway. If you're that disadvantaged, then you might not have a good time because you're going to suck at it. But that's just how it is.
Sports in general aren't really fair inherently.
So the difference would be, right? So if Chris Paul is 6'1" and Chris Paul goes to the WNBA.
Yeah, sports in general are unfair. But if we make them more unfair, then it's women that pay the price. And it's women that pay the price most of the time now, because it's much harder for women to come into male sports and dominate.
Chris Paul probably the best player in the WNBA.
I don't think that would be true.
You don't think so?
No, I think Aja Wilson.
If Chris Paul is 6'1" and Chris Paul goes to the WNBA, Chris Paul probably the best player in the WNBA.
This is all going to be speculation. It possibly would be. Men just have a lot more ability. Something like basketball, I would imagine the men's game is at a much higher level than the female. If a male professional player comes into the female sport, yeah, he might dominate. He might destroy them. We don't know because it's never happened. It never will.
I don't think that would be true.
You don't think so?
No, I think Aja Wilson would give Chris Paul buckets, personally.
Seriously?
And by the way, fun fact, there's actually no rule against women being in the NBA. And 2 women in the past have been signed to NBA contracts.
Yep. No, there is no rule. They think Caitlin Clark could play in the NBA because of her shooting abilities. But on defense, she's going to get scored on every time in the post. Chris Paul would probably be one of the best players in the WNBA.
Well, hold on, though, because what you're saying about if Caitlin.
He wants to admit that, yeah, this guy would at least be one of the very top ones, even if he's not that great in the male NBA. He really doesn't want to admit this, does he?
Clark went in the NBA, how she'd be a liability on defense. I agree, but what I'm saying is that's not something inherent to gender or sex, because there's also every point guard in the NBA is mincemeat if Victor Wembanyama goes in the paint. So like that critique of fairness.
Every point guard in the NBA is mincemeat when they're.
Yeah, but like the reason that makes sense to say is because the person you're talking about is super like exceptional, even by male standards. But a lot of men in the NBA now would be super exceptional against women because women are just generally smaller and less strong and less fast. This just doesn't make any sense.
Own player, the other point guard takes him to the block. That's the thing.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, like when Ben Simmons was a point guard, he was 6'7", 6'8", so he would have towered over the likes of like Chris Paul.
One, Ben Simmons sucks now, but like two, you're using outliers, and Ben Simmons would be called what they called him was a point forward.
I don't think so. There's Trae Young. I mean, it's not outliers. You can look at any player.
No, he is talking about outliers. What am I watching? What am I fucking watching? What is this guy? What are you talking about? Why are you like this?
An example of this, though, is
Trae Young couldn't guard any four.
This actually was already dealt with. And when you look at, say, the field of wrestling, if you look at wrestlers, you don't just have wrestlers, you have weight classes.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, unlimited wrestling, a featherweight, or even in boxing, a welterweight, boxing a heavyweight, would not be a very entertaining or fair competition. So even in wrestling and boxing, we segregate the performance not even just by gender or sex, but even by weight class.
You're saying that if
Yeah, it makes sense for like super like combat sports and stuff. It makes sense for fairness. That doesn't mean that every single sport needs all these subdivisions. And even if they did, think about like heavyweight boxing. Let's say we just do it by size rather than gender. It'd be all men. Men just have that they have more. They can have a higher standard of ability in any one weight class. I'm sure I've watched videos of like a guy like outlifting a woman when the woman was like bigger than him. I'm sure I've seen stuff like that before.
a cis person or if wrestling is cis people, different weight class, okay. So what if that intersex person is there? Now it's not fair. That's the special pleading case that they're making aware to.
The thing is that because they're not male,
That's- No, see, so
Taking the question and going back to your first point, which is just not fair because male and female.
yeah, so the problem is your critiques seem to be these things have to be separated on gender. Gender is what makes it unfair, or
Sex.
sex, I guess, since we're
Thank you.
saying male and female. But then when it comes to wrestling, all of a sudden it seems to not be sex for you. It's weight.
Yeah, there's. Oh my god, this guy's so fucking dumb, bro. He's so fucking dumb. They do additional weight divisions within the sexes. Yes. You wouldn't have a super featherweight boxing against a super heavyweight. Because the super heavyweight probably fucking killed a smaller guy. Obviously. Some sports need additional, like, categorization. But it would be fucking retarded to just use this categorization and get rid of the sex split. Like, men don't have to have as high a fat percent, so they can be leaner, they can have more muscle. Their bodies develop in a different way, which makes them more, on average, able to do this sport or that sport. Makes them stronger and faster. More like fast twitch muscle fibers and stuff. Obviously, in like fighting sports, there's additional categories. So that a fucking 100-pound man doesn't get snapped in half by a fucking 300-pound man.
So why is it different?
So then if you said,
Why is it different in combat sport? Fucking hell, bro. Why do you need to ask this question?
it's okay to divide wrestlers and boxers by weight class, but it's not okay to divide other sports by weight class.
It's not necessary to divide other sports by weight class. Like, what do we want? Do we want there to be 5 different versions of the Premier League? Where there's different weight classes? Or you just have the one? It doesn't make any sense. Most sports just favor a specific, like, body type. So I don't even know how you'd... Because, like, at a certain point, if it's, like, something like football, where you'd want to be in, like, the top class, if you feel you're good enough for it. But if you're, like, not heavy enough, you have to stay in one of the lower, like, weight classes. It doesn't make any sense.
Not considering gender. Why? What makes that magically special?
They're different sports, that's why. That's the magic. They're different.
But the way which
Yeah,
is
because people are literally hitting each other. People are literally, like, fighting. It's so, like, it's unbelievable how dense people pretend to be when the topic of trans sports comes up. The sex split is fine. Maybe it's not to be for fucking trans women. Maybe just accept that.
you say there, hold on, I got this guy says, I love this. Peter, would you say they're special sports?
No, they're just different.
So wait. So then you would say then that you couldn't put. So wait, then you would say that it fails to put a blanket rule on all sports, and we should go sport by sport.
Well,
That's not how we do it now. We have the gender split or the sex split, and then additionally in combat sports.
gender is definitely a blanket one.
Why is that special? Again, that's special.
Because men are bigger and stronger than females. Because if we don't have the male-female split, sports will be largely just men, and women won't get a look in. Women probably don't want to be like seed 2000 and below in every fucking sport. They probably want for some of them to excel and actually do well. That means that you have a male sport and a female sport. It's not difficult.
Pleading. That's special pleading. That's special pleading. So justify
You
it.
said in power sports earlier. You broke it down.
No.
Power sports.
My position is that it is sport by sport. His position is that gender is
I mean, hey, listen, if we do it sport by sport, most sports work on a sex split. And most sports do not allow male people into female competition. So we do it sport by sport, it ends up landing on the sensible position anyway. My pronouns are whatever you want them to be. I cannot be misgendered. It is impossible to misgender me.
blanket for all sports. I'm asking, why are you special pleading for gender?
Yeah, but you know, and this is why it's going to become a semantics issue. Because now I know you're going to say, "Oh well."
Back to semantics, so we should retreat it back to his
We need to not have like two people with like the worst audio ever. Like this is not easy to listen to.
Become a semantics issue. Because now I know you're going to say, "Oh well."
back to semantics, so we should retreat it back to his original script.
Because I've done
The
this.
conversation's full circle.
What's the difference between
They're both just talking over it. I can't hear a word.
So
basketball?
hold on, what sport doesn't include people of
The
different
different
weights?
sports. That's the difference.
Peter, question is, what sport doesn't include for people of different weights competing?
What sport doesn't include different people weights competing? So wrestling.
Doesn't every sport have this?
Yeah.
Boxing wouldn't take.
Yeah, boxing doesn't have people of different. I mean, if you want to get like anal about it, then yeah, the people within the weight classes are still different weights, but it's a lot more heavily controlled. But like, look at the sports where there's weight categories. It's people literally fighting each other.
Technically,
The only way to be consistent there is that you would then have to think every sport with people of different weights has different weight classes, like the NBA. You would think there would need to be NBA weight.
Why would there be? Oh my god, man! Why would there be weight classes for the fucking NBA? Why would you have like 5 different leagues or something? It doesn't make any sense. Didn't the under-16 boys team defeat the women's national football team in the UK? I don't know specifically. The Swiss national women's team lost to a bunch of teenage boys, like 7-1 or something. The US women's team have lost to so many fucking men's teams that are like super old or super young that I can't even fucking count anymore. It seems to happen fairly often. Like, women playing football against teenage boys will usually lose, apparently. Or old men. Didn't the US women's team play against like Wrexham, like over 40s or some shit? Wrexham retirees. Wrexham aren't even a big team in the UK. They're like, what, Championship League 1 or something.
Weight classes, which is
Yes, they
incoherent.
do. Peter, you missed the point. This is not supposed to be a hard question.
Yeah, the NBA having weight classes is retarded. It's necessary for some sports, it's not necessary for others. Why does sport need to be consistent in this way? Why does every sport need to work the same way? Well, he doesn't think that, because he's saying, oh, well, it needs to be sport by sport. Well, it's kind of both. Things like weight classes are up to the sport, but in general, every sport wants a male and a female split. And that's just how it's going to be.
Peter,
I've seen Mama Cha before. She seemed okay, but like the last few times I've seen her live streams, it's been like, all the titles have been about like baiting transphobes or something. I don't know. Very weird.
Weight's not important. Let's just say you were to say that chess is a sport. Weight's not important. It doesn't matter.
so would you say that every sport that requires weight factors could be allowed to segregate based on weight and not
This conversation is getting really retarded, to be honest. It's so obvious.
gender?
Weight is important in basketball. It's one of the most important things. Should they segregate by?
I mean, on behalf of like, if you're taller, you have more weight. I guess weight is important, but isn't it height? Isn't it height that's the really important thing in basketball?
by weight classes?
And if weight doesn't
So,
contribute,
so then it's not weight, then it's not, now again, you failed again, no special thing. So it goes back to, what's the metric that makes boxing,
not special
it's
plating,
okay, what's the metric?
sex is
What's
all
the metric
that's it.
that
You can
makes
say it's
boxing
positive,
and
you're wrong.
wrestling special?
One of them you get punched in the face, the other one you're throwing the ball.
Contact and weight matters more than almost anything else in basketball. Speed, height, and weight are the three most important things in basketball. So should they be segregated by weight class?
No.
No. There's an elite level. If you're not big, strong, and fast enough to make it in the elite level, then it's just not meant to be. Consider a different sport, or be okay playing semi-professionally or lower. It is what it is. No one's entitled to be in the NBA.
Not impossible.
No.
Okay, so then why is wrestling special
Why
then?
exactly?
They're literally fucking hitting each other. They're literally... Like, if they're wrestling, if they're grappling with each other, and you've got a fucking 300-pound fucking beefcake, and a 150-pound, like, someone looking like me, then the guy that's lighter is going to get thrown around all over the place. He won't have a fucking chance.
It was primarily introduced because of safety and regulation.
If you're saying this is a principle, principles are universal. If this is your principle, it should hold up in every sport, right?
No, it can be different for different sports, and you agree with this because your position is the sport should just do what they want to do, which is what they are doing. Did I compliment this person earlier? I take it back. This guy's a moron. Stop arguing on behalf of trans people. Where's the other lesser one in that? I actually was thinking of watching one of their videos later on. Oh, you don't see him. You don't see him. This guy's less white though. This guy at least is not a white person with dreads.
That should be
No, that's not fair. That's not, because you even.
Yeah, basketball isn't even a contact sport. I think people do make contact and stuff, but you're not meant to like bang into each other. You can't knock someone over. In like football and stuff, if you get the ball fairly and you also knock someone over, then that's okay. And you're gonna make contact. In basketball, you have to be like much more careful, I'm sure. Like contact happens, but it's not really a contact sport.
Earlier broke the principle by classifying things as power sports and other sports.
No, because he's saying that it should be blanket. He is saying that this is something that should.
Some rules can be blanket, not every rule has to be. It's okay to have one rule that is blanket and another rule that is dependent on the sport. It's absolutely fine for that to be the case. Just because someone believes in a blanket male-female split, it doesn't mean that they have to think that any other split that could possibly exist also has to be blanket. That is a retarded position.
Apply to all sports. Thus, the principle that justifies it needs to apply to all sports. I'm not making a blanket
That's retarded.
claim. I'm saying sports are sport by sport.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so he doesn't even believe that.
I was seeing breakers of symmetry in your argument. I apologize for jutting it.
Okay, that was him destroying someone apparently. That was utterly stupid. That was actually fucking dumb.